Hey folks, Matt from artoftheimage.com. I've had a lot of questions in since the announcement of the 6D Mark II, the Canon 6D Mark II, regarding whether or not people should consider the 5D Mark III or should they go with the 6D Mark II, and which one is a better value, which way should they go on that if they're looking at a purchase. Because I think some people were disappointed with, I know some people, a lot of people were disappointed, the 6D Mark II is a good camera, but with the lack of 4K, it's certainly not future-proofed. And does that then make the 5D Mark III a better performing camera, a better deal? So what I did was I went back and looked at a comparison of the two and was looking at what would be the deciding factors here for me, 6D Mark II versus 5D Mark III. Now, one of the first things you got to look at is 22 megapixels versus 26. Not a big difference, but let's also factor in the 6D Mark II has a newer, more advanced processor in it. So I think overall, you're going to be seeing better image quality. Shockingly different? No. Probably between the two, very little difference, but an edge to the 6D Mark II. So this is a point in favor of the 6D Mark II by a small margin. A little advantage there. I'm going to say that the 6D Mark II is a better performing sensor, and you do get a little bit of resolution edge. 4 megapixels, not a lot, but it is there. So that's something to consider. Tied into what I was just saying there about the advanced processor, we've got ISO 100 to 40,000 versus ISO 100 to 25.6. I think you're going to see that when all the tests come out and many people do their tests and whatnot, and you're able to weigh them all on par, you're going to see that not only is it a little bit more resolution, but it's a better performing sensor in ISO, high ISO as well. I'm not saying you're going to want to be shooting at 40,000, same way you probably didn't want to shoot at 25.6 on the 5D Mark III, but the fact that they are giving it that additional there makes me think that at a given lower aperture, or ISO, for example, say ISO 3200, which a lot of people have no problem shooting at on either camera, I think you're going to see the 6D Mark II getting a slight nod there again. Probably not earth-shattering, probably not drastic differences, but I would expect to see it being cleaner and better. So I'm going to give that a second point to the 6D Mark II over the 5D Mark III. Now, some of these other differences here are where we start to see the 5D Mark III pull ahead. You got dual card slots on the 5D Mark III. You don't have that on the 6D Mark II, and it gives you, a lot of people don't like to shoot professionally without a camera nowadays that has dual card slots. For me, it's not a deal killer, but it is an advantage of the 5D Mark III. So depending on what you're doing and how you feel about that alone may be a big thing. I know for a lot of people that's huge. Another advantage of the 5D Mark III is more autofocus points. We're 61 versus 85. So we've got advantage 5D Mark III in the autofocus system. And when you consider the 5D level of camera versus the 6D being a lower level of camera, not surprising. And probably in a lot of situations, especially if you're a center focus guy, you're probably not going to see a huge difference. But all in all, a slightly more capable autofocus system in the 5D Mark III. So there's another point to the 5D Mark III. So it's 2 for the 6D Mark II, 2 for the 5D Mark III. What you need to do is decide which of these points matter to you, and one or more of them may be the deciding factor on why, for your needs, one of these cameras is better. Headphone jack, we've got a headphone jack in the 5D Mark III, so if you're into video, better video camera there than in the 6D Mark II, because we don't have one in the 6D Mark II. So that's the third point in favor of the 5D Mark III. We also have a faster shutter in the 5D Mark III, so that's 1/8,000th versus 1/4,000th on the shutter. So that's 4 points in favor of the 5D Mark III over the 6D Mark II. Added together, that may be enough to push you over to the 5D Mark III. Taken individually, perhaps not. Some of them, like the headphone jack, if you're into video, could be a very important feature for you. The autofocus system, some people that would be enough right there. Dual card slots, and then again, they could all compound to make that all of a sudden you're like, yeah, 5D Mark III for me. But we're not done with the advantages of the 6D Mark II over the 5D Mark III. We've got the tilt swivel screen and touchscreen, I believe, too. Yeah, touchscreen. So those are 2 more features. I'm going to lump them as one. Well, no, let's not. Let's give it. I mean, it's a touch screen and it's a tilt swivel screen. To me, those are huge advantages of the 60 Mark II over the 5D Mark III, simply because I've been using these type of screens for so long now. Some people just haven't used them yet, and I think that's why they don't realize the advantage that they bear. But not just for video, these are a huge advantage in all aspects of photography as well. And I really think that's something that is a big bonus on the 60 Mark II. So that brings us to 4 versus 4. Advantage of the 60 Mark II, and then they've got advantages of the 5D Mark III. Built-in Wi-Fi is an advantage for me, especially in terms of video. So that would be significant. I think it's mostly an advantage if you're into video. If you're not into video, it might not be of any advantage to you. But again, something that the 60 Mark II has and the 5D Mark III does not. NFC, again, so connectivity. Built-in Bluetooth, connectivity. I would almost lump those all into one, but they are individually different. We've got Wi-Fi, NFC, and Bluetooth. So there's 3 more points. Perhaps the Wi-Fi point is the greatest out of the 3, especially if you're into video. We got built-in GPS. Some people really like that. I don't really ever use that. I see how it can be handy, especially if you're into, a lot of backpacking and trekking and hiking and things like that. It's nice to have the GPS coordinates. Certainly is an advantage. Not a big deal killer for me, but it is an advantage to the 60 Mark II. On-sensor phase detection for video focus, well, we've got that on the 60 Mark II. A huge advantage for video. It's kind of that, follow focus. We're talking dual pixel AF there. So, what else do we have? We've got longer battery life. That's a big thing. 1200 versus 950 shots. We've got the bigger JPEG buffer, 98 versus 63. So that's significant too. This may be of big importance to some people. So, basically we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points for the 60 Mark II, mostly because it's newer, more advanced. But there are the 4 points, fairly significant points, 2 of them anyways, the dual card slots and the AF points, on the 5D Mark III. So you got to look at these. There's a lot, and some of them smaller, but they all add up into a lot more points on the 60 Mark II. So in general, if the price is similar, I'm thinking 60 Mark II is a better buy for most people. However, if you can get a really good deal on the 5D Mark III, there are some strong points to it, and you just, again, have to evaluate, are these points that are important to you, significant to you, and can you live without what you're not getting on the 60 Mark II? So, for me, 60 Mark II would be the way that I would go there. If you're just wondering which way I would go for my shooting needs and whatnot, that is probably more heavily weighted than some of you because I'm really heavily into video these days. So the tilt screen, the touch screen, the Wi-Fi, the dual pixel AF, the on-sensor phase detect, that type of thing is very important to me. The better battery life I like, and the buffer, everything about that's really good. On the 5D Mark III, dual card slots, I like it, but it's not a deal killer for me. The AF points, I'm generally a single point shooter, center point. So for my type of photography, I do a lot of portraits, a lot of landscapes. Don't do a lot that requires a lot of tracking and very advanced autofocus systems. The headphone jack, that would be a plus. Although, again, even for my own video needs, I don't tend to use one a lot. So for me, it's be the 60 Mark II. For you, it may be the 5D Mark III, but you have to weigh these points and decide which ones are more applicable to you, which ones can you live with, what can you live without, what can't you live without, and then the price that you can get each for. Because if the 5D Mark III comes in at a much better price, well, then that may be the overriding factor for you right there. What do you guys think? Let me know what your thoughts are. Which way would you go? Would you go 5D3? Would you go 62? And what is the deciding factor for you? Let me know in the comments below. Interested to hear your feedback now that we have a lot more information and that 62 has been announced and whatnot. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon here at artoftheimage.com.